Dream Scenario is a new film directed by Kristoffer Borgli, and I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly, but I've never heard of this guy before until this film. In fact, it looks like this is only his second or third feature-length film, but I'm definitely going to be checking out more of his work after this one. It stars Nicolas Cage, which was the initial draw to making me want to see this, and I was vaguely aware of the premise, and this is not a original thought or observation. To describe this movie very Charlie Kaufman-like. That's a major draw for me. Charlie Kaufman is one of my favorite screenwriters in Hollywood right now, writing some of my favorite films like Being John Malkovich, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Synecdoche, New York. I'm thinking of Ending Things. These are films that I either absolutely love or at very least am fascinated by and think of quite often. And this film gives off all sorts of vibes similar to those films. The very generic premise is that Nicolas Cage plays the most boring middle-aged person in the world. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he starts appearing in people's dreams. People that know him in real life, but also just complete strangers. And then he becomes this internet phenomenon that goes viral because the whole world is connecting the dots that everybody is having dreams about this person. And from there, the plot continues and develops and goes a couple different directions, but that's the initial premise and kind of the framework that this entire film follows. And here's how I would describe my overall feelings towards this film. I grew up right outside Chicagoland, so I'm very accustomed to a specific style of pizza. Not necessarily deep dish, but just thin crust, square cut. It's so specific, and I didn't realize it was so specific until I moved away and realized that not everyone had that. So where I live now, I've been searching for this style of pizza locally, and I finally settled on one place that is close enough, but if I were to compare that with what I grew up with, it probably wouldn't even fall in the top 10. And that's kind of how I feel about this film. It's good enough, but it kind of just makes me want real Charlie Kaufman films. And I will give credit to the filmmaker and to Nicolas Cage especially, because this is a very competently made film. There's nothing wrong about it from the acting and the script. It's very funny and is this perfect combination of laugh out loud moments and situations that make you want to cringe and crawl up into a ball. The premise is so absurd and the script successfully takes it in interesting places. But when the film ends, you are left wanting just a little bit more. And I do think that little bit more can be a compliment to this film because I think that proves that it did a successful and effective job of making you want more. But I think my biggest issue with it is I'm a little confused on what the messaging or what this film is trying to say. And that's not to say that every film has to have this very deep message trying to poke at something deeper in life, because it does touch on a lot of different things like internet fame, celebrity culture, even cancel culture to a certain extent. But it more so presents these ideas and kind of leaves you to fill in the gaps of your own interpretation of it rather than sticking to an intentional thesis and giving you something very specific to walk away with. But this is another all-time performance from the late stages of Nicolas Cage's career. The past 5 years or so, it just feels like he is so intentional with the roles he takes. He didn't have to do this movie. The things that this script asked him to do are very absurd, but it's not really that surprising because these are the films that he has been drawn to in recent years. So this film isn't going to make my favorites of the year. It may or may not be one that I revisit often, but I have thought about it a decent amount since I first saw it a few weeks ago. By the time you are watching this video, it will have a wide release, so there's a good chance you can see it in a theater near you. And I would give it a soft recommendation. If you just want absurd, cringy vibes with a couple of good laugh out loud moments and a surprisingly large amount of cameos, especially for me, who didn't really pay a lot of attention to the cast list going into this, it's a decent time all around. So that's Dream Scenario. Have you seen it? What do you think? Comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and I will see you next time.